Hello and welcome to Dr. Nishant's diary. It's really cold in Delhi. It was 3 degrees last night when I was in the emergency, and for a person like me who's been brought up in front of a beach all his life, it's not easy. Anyways, today I'm going to tell you about a bet that my boss made with me recently. So last Friday evening, he tells my juniors to tell me that I'm going to have to do an interval appendicectomy the next day, and that is going to be really hard. Now here's some background. An appendix is this worm-like 8 to 10 centimeter part of your bowel that you don't need, but surgeons love it because it gets infected very often and makes surgeons a lot of money. Anyways, so if an appendix gets infected, earlier the dictum was that you always have to do an operation and take it out. But now there's this new philosophy that if it forms a lump, which means that if it gets attached to the fat in the abdomen and to the surrounding bowel, it can be very dangerous to take it out when it's infected. So we gave the patient antibiotics, and after 6 weeks, when the infection has resolved, to take it out right then would be much safer. So the next day I was going to do this interval appendicectomy, which is considered harder than appendicectomy because, well, the infection is gone and the organ has shrunk, but it's still stuck to that bowel and still stuck to the fat around it. So then on the morning of Saturday, I have the patient painted and draped and I'm ready, and my boss comes in and then he says, "Nishant, if you can do this operation without my help, I'm going to give you a treat." Yay. But then he says, if you need my help, you're going to have to give the whole surgical unit a treat. And as if that wasn't enough, the 3 anesthetists on the head end of the patient, normally it's hard enough to find one, they say, "What about us?" So my boss says he'll give you a treat as well. And then the 3 sisters on the foot end of the patient, normally there's only one, they say, "What about us?" And then he says, "Oh, Nishant will give you a treat also." So way to raise the stakes, and so I started the operation, and I'm expecting some really hard times ahead. And 15 minutes into the operation, I find that the appendix is this small. It was only about 2 centimeters, and it wasn't stuck to anything. And I would have finished it in the next 5 minutes, but I thought I'd call my boss anyways. See, I was fearing if I take out an appendix that small, he'd think I've just cut off the tip and left the rest inside or something, God knows. So I call him and I show him the anatomical landmarks and I say, "Sir, this is a really small appendix, and what should I take it out?" And he looks at it somewhat disgustedly because he was expecting this to be much harder. And he says, "Ha ha, nikal de." And so I do, I take it out, and the operation is done in the next 15-20 minutes, closing and everything. And so I've won. Everyone is asking me now to go collect my prize and to ask my boss for a treat. So instead, my boss just says that the next patient is a 14-year-old pediatric patient of hernia, and that he wants me to do it, and if there's any trouble, he should call me. And so I did that operation, and it was a wonderful operation. You don't expect to get operations like these in your post-graduation. It was very fine dissection, and I showed him my dissection, and it went very well. So I guess that was a wonderful treat as it is. After the operation though, the 14-year-old boy who had been given ketamine anesthesia, which is one of the anesthesias that can cause hallucinations, actually went through a lot of hallucinations. After he woke up, he started saying, "I want to run." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Can I run?" And I said, "Eventually, but not right now." And I had to take 5 minutes to convince him not to start running off of the OT table. Then he suddenly says, "मैं सबको गोली मार दूंगा, इतना दम है इस छाती में." And so I had to ask him if he had a gun with him, and he said no. And then after telling me a lot of other weird stuff about school and home, after 5 minutes, he forgets everything that he had said, and he was back to normal. So yeah, that was also something of a treat to watch. And I guess the lesson here is for me, and I guess for my boss, and the lesson is never trust an appendix.